Yeah, I saw Jean pull up and I thought, too late. Are you ready?
Oh, excuse me.
I'm ready whenever you are, so.
All right, let's call the February 15th Park Lakes and Trails Commission workshop to order. Do you want to do roll call?
Yes, so we'll have Chair Steenblock, Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Ramseth,
Here.
Commissioner Steenblock,
Here.
Commissioner Moorhead,
Here.
Commissioner Geyer,
Here.
Commissioner Gary.
All right, I don't see anyone for open forum tonight. We'll move on to the next agenda item, Commissioner Subcommittee list for 2022.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Geyer, for filling in tonight to run the meeting. So Parks Commissioners, we have a workshop format tonight. We have a few different items to work through, so I thought it was a good opportunity with the smaller group to work through some of these items. So we'll go through them in order, and as noted, there are some documents that I can't share on the computers, but you have in front of you. So the first item, if you don't mind, is the Commissioners' Subcommittees for 2022. If you want to grab that document, I'll walk us through that agenda item. So I just wanted to start tonight at our workshop to take about 5 minutes to go over our committees that we've developed in the past couple of years, review the examples of work, and then provide commissioners that are here tonight an opportunity to provide any comment or feedback if they'd like to join a group or switch a group for 2022. We have a lot of work before us, so I wanted to get this established and set so that we can start assigning some different tasks and responsibilities to complete that work. So commissioners who are not here tonight, I will also reach out to them to see if they have any interest in switching groups. So just again, tonight we're just gonna go over these briefly here, and then if you have any interest in switching or adding a group, tonight's an open discussion on that. So again, if you don't, a few years ago we developed different committees that kind of encompass the work that we do. So we have a capital improvements committee. Some of the examples were the Belts Park Master Plan, any kind of capital planning we need to do, trail development, and the Veterans Memorial Project. We have a maintenance and improvements committee for things like park inspections, repairs, something like the Fenway Park maintenance repairs would be something to discuss in that smaller group. We have a partnerships and agreements. So we have Castlewood Golf Course listed, Fenway Park concessions. More relevant examples right now might be the Your Boat Club agreement that expires, and any new agreements that we might have to put together. Programs and events, our community events, which we'll talk about later tonight, so Arts in the Park, Spring Fling, etc. Policies and procedures, so anytime we need to update our fees or park rules, creating any new ordinance recommendations, things of that nature, and then budget and financials. So going over a sponsorship program, park dedication fees, how we can get grants, and other ways to fund our programs and activities. So those 6 committees really, like I said, encompass the work that we do. And so just having the smaller committees allow individuals on the commission opportunities to focus on certain areas or get involved in certain tasks. So with that being said, I had a couple of quick comments and I can turn it over. I know when this first created, I think Commissioner Geyer joined and was only originally put on that one programs and events committee. So there's definitely an opportunity if you're interested in adding to another one. I know you're working on the Your Boat Club agreement, so that might be a good fit. We also only have Commissioner Gary on one committee right now as well. So really this is where your interests lie and what you would be wanting to work on. So I want this to, I want commissioners to be on committees that they think they'll enjoy. So with that being said, it's again a workshop. So if anyone has any initial feedback or thoughts, the end result of this is just we'll get to a final one before March so that we can start assigning different responsibilities.
I'm satisfied with my committees. I'm fine.
Okay.
With them.
I'm also satisfied.
I was actually thinking about if Jason wouldn't mind, Maintenance and Improvements Committee.
So Jason's on the Maintenance and Improvements Committee right now, him and Commissioner Miller.
If you don't mind if I join you guys.
Oh, join you. Got it.
I suppose.
Let me tell you, she's really good.
I think having a third commissioner there would be important. I know we have a big
Yep.
project coming up with a full park inventory this spring. So someone to lead, which commissioners, maybe assign commissioners 3 or 4 parks that they're responsible to keep a tab on or go visit. So
Okay.
I think that'd be really helpful.
I was thinking of staying on the program and events, but I would really like to be on the partnership and agreements. I think I have more skills in that than policies and procedures. And never did like policies and procedures on the school board, so I don't know how I got on that one. But if it would be a possibility to just join again the partnership and agreements, but then you'd need someone to take on policy and procedure.
Yep, I think that would be fine, a good switch as well. And I can talk to Commissioner Gary if he has interest in that. Unless there's anybody else, let's see. Commissioner Miller. That's good feedback for tonight. I can check with, maybe Commissioner Miller is on 3 right now. Maybe he'd want to switch from one of his existing ones. I think the first 3 groups, I do see quite a bit of work, a lot of planning this year. We have to really work on our capital plan for parks. So I think that's going to be a big project. So I think having a few people there would be good too. So I can support these changes, and I'll talk to the other commissioners and get to a final agreement or arrangement that works for everybody.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks for your feedback.
All right, next item, parks programs budget allocation.
Okay, so this one is a separate document that has workshop agenda number 5. I listed a few things we're going to talk about tonight for this. So really I know we've had some conversations about looking at our budgets more. So I thought this was a good time tonight to talk about more specifically our parks programs entertainment budget. It's one of our larger areas of our funding that we use for community events and programs and activities. So for tonight, we're gonna review and understand the funding that we have available, review and understand how these funds are allocated to our different programs, and then just like to open it up for discussion. And I think it can tie into the start of, as we're planning for 2022 programs, ways to really get a sponsorship program going and how we can find other funding for these events. So with that being said, the parks programs budget is, we have $38,000 for 2022, which is the same amount as last year. So I just went through and broke this down by the different program or event that we offer. So I'm not going to go through every bit of detail. This is updated. I did have one typo on the last one, so I just updated this to reflect what our budget would be for this. As you can see in the second grid there, I broke it down per event. So for the spring fling, we spent about $1,800. Arts in the Park, we spent about $19,000. 4th of July, we spent $13,700. Recreation programs, so that would be the park play days support, $2,500, and then the hometown holiday, I budgeted $600. And then I also listed the percentage of our budget that we're spending on these activities. Lastly, I did add how much we received in donations for our programs for 2021. We did get some community support for our spring fling and our hometown holiday, which really helps us add more to the event and make it be a bigger and better event. So this is, again, the $38,000. This is our entertainment budget. We do have some funding available for like miscellaneous things or operating expenses. It's like $1,000, and that's where if I need, more of like the event supplies for operating, that's where we can get that. But these are our like bounce houses, our entertainment, our bigger events expenses for the programs.
Are you
So-
saying it's $1,000 over the 38,000 that you would be able to tap into if we needed it for those things?
Correct. Kind of like the little miscellaneous items that are needed, like napkins for the corn feed and supplies more so. But the spring fling, like the petting zoo, that's $1,100, and then our community corn feed is that for the corn itself. The bulk of the event is $1,200. So the supplies, like the corn, the napkins, and the miscellaneous little things, I didn't account for. I just kind of know what I'd have to spend for those items, but this is the bulk of it. And I think, it's important to kind of review, as we're talking about our next items tonight, our concert series, our contract with Mr. McBride, and then our concert series. I think we're pretty locked into those budgets of what we have available unless we can really secure some sponsorships for Arts in the Park. So again, I wanted to bring this forward as just a way for everyone to get on the same page and understand what we're working with and how these dollars are budgeted for this year. And to do anything more and additional would really require, donations or sponsorships from the community to add to these events or add any additional events and programs.
I really was feeling, maybe because it's been such a long winter and you see all the events in other cities, that it would be really nice to add something in the winter. So maybe we can just add that to a topic for our small committee at some point. But, it doesn't have to be anything huge, but, a little ice carving or a little skating down
Someone
at the
just told
park
me
or
about
something.
bowling on the ice.
Bowling on the ice, golf,
Curling.
little mini golf
Curling
on the
and
ice, just
I
something.
don't understand grooming too much.
But we'd
I
have to
think that's a
find money.
good, right, well, and I think that can be, a request for 2023. I actually did ask for 40,000 this year, just because the fireworks cost did go up for the 4th of July, but we were approved for 38,000. So I think being mindful of that, and to know, like, let's put that in our budget request, so that when we get to like June of this year and we start talking about budgets, we can make sure that that's included in there and have an idea of what that would look like. I know the chamber used to run Flake Festival up until about 2014. And so I tried to keep that going, but just as, it was difficult without having a committee. So I think we're getting some synergy and some energy around reinstating this winter event. So I think we have our events committee get together soon so we can start really building that committee back up again with some of the groups currently having events in the winter. It's going to take more than just the city to run those, and I think we have some really good movement going and interest in getting a group going together for that.
Any other comments on the budget?
Looks good.
Arts and Park.
All right, so another item tonight is, the next workshop item is our Arts in the Park entertainment contract. So tonight we're going to review, and I included a copy of this that I'll go through. Do we want to renew a contract with Mr. Woody McBride for our Arts in the Park concert series? And then if yes, I'd like to review and discuss his compensation for 2022. And then if there's any other questions of the contract after tonight, I will bring a final contract back for approval in March. I'll just run through this contract here. It should look familiar. It's been the same version of the contract for the last few years with Mr. Woody McBride. Obviously, I've changed dates and such to reflect 2022. But just a little history again is we've hired Mr. Woody McBride to help us with our concert series. So he is, has a good standing in the music industry and has a lot of good relationships with a lot of the performers. So he's really done a great job helping us select entertainment that has drawn people into the community from other areas and has really made this a hometown favorite, having Arts in the Park every Tuesday, June through August. So his responsibility is, and I work with him too, he provides a recommendation on a contract or on a concert series. We provide feedback and work with him to get to a final concert series that we all agree on. He gets paid for those services to negotiate those fees. And then we also have paid him every Tuesday that he's on site. And he brings in, his whole sound system. He's there for stage management and MC services, and really helps get the band set up to perform. So if you want to turn to page 3 on the contract, there's a highlighted section about compensation. So that breaks down, A and B talk about the 2 different ways we pay him. So it's consultation, event, series coordination, and talent acquisition. So in 2022, he was compensated $1,000 for those services. So as described, recommending the concert series, talking to the different groups, getting their contracts, negotiated with the city. All of those kind of elements of securing the concert series lineup. And then letter B is the sound and production, the stage management, and host MC services. So we paid him $200 every Tuesday, up to $2,000. The rest of that language basically says that if a Tuesday is canceled due to weather, we'll still pay him up to 2 canceled events, that $200, so that he's not out. Any cancellations beyond that, he agrees that he won't get paid, but we will pay him up to 2 canceled events so that he's blocked that time and has had that dedicated for us, so.
Am I reading that correctly, that his whole compensation then is like $3,000?
It was, yes.
Wow, it's worth every penny of that. Has he ever asked for anything additional?
I did reach out and he said whatever, he really enjoys our concert series. Obviously, if we can provide more, that would be appreciated. He hasn't really asked for it in a way that said, here's what I'm looking for. I think it would be nice if we can offer a little additional, and part of that conversation tonight is what do we want to provide and bring forward to him as part of this contract. But we were out 2020, we didn't do the concert series, and then these are the same, what you see here is still from 2021 because I want to talk about it tonight. And kind of going back to the last conversation about budget, I did include in there $3,200 for the entertainment contract. However, if that goes up, I think we just have to then modify a little bit. If it's donations or sponsorship, I think we're going to get some funding in. So we can make some small modifications in another area.
Well, I don't have a figure in mind, and I don't doubt that he didn't ask, but never in all the years that I've attended Arts in the Park or worked with him have I had anyone come up and thank me for the person who's in charge. And this year I had 2, and they were overwhelmingly appreciative. And as you could remember, that was crowds, and I mean, he just does such a good job of the presentation and having everything accurate and correct. So I don't know. And I know when I spoke to him, he said, thank you for thanking me. He said, sometimes you just wonder. So I don't know what it would be, but I would really like to see a thank you of some sort with him. I don't know what it is.
Any other comments, thoughts?
Well, maybe at the end of the season, there could be bonus of some sort of shows if it went well and we
So like maybe consider a slight increase this year on the front end of things, like an increase per night and slight increase on the front end with a potential bonus opportunity at the end based on attendance or how the overall series went.
Be great, because there's a lot of time up there getting it all ready, and I think there was a slight something on the front, and then I think that's a good idea, and then more on the back or something else on the back, depending on the season, but
As budget, some kind of language as to be determined by the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission as budget resources provide or something along those lines.
How many years have we used him?
About 6 or 7.
Wow.
And I know that, and it's actually written in our contract as well. I know that we are getting a significantly reduced price based on our longstanding relationship with them. So, he does enjoy it, and I think, obviously right now, things that we'll need to think about throughout the year is just everything's going up in price right now too. So it's not just going to be services; it's going to be, materials and goods and everything. So, things to think about, and I think, like I said, we set what we want to set for this budget for him, and then we can make some modifications elsewhere. And I think we will get some sponsorship and donations in, just don't know that capacity to offset some of that other expense, if that makes sense. So I think that's important that we get this figured out, and then our next conversation we'll talk more about starting to select the entertainment. I know he has some really great relationships, and maybe when we're selecting the bands, maybe there's some more negotiation power in there of, really good rates, because I know we've gotten discounted rates on entertainment on some of those big name bands that we may not have otherwise had. So there's some cost savings to us in that.
he's a good guy.
Sounds good.
So is feedback tonight, I mean, it sounds like some initial increase in the contract, and then maybe add a section about potential, like a bonus language, so I'll add a section. And then, do you want me to just negotiate or talk with him on what, kind of get to where we're both comfortable, that it's an increase and that he's happy with what's being recommended? Does that seem fair? Yeah, because I think he's at the park every Tuesday for about anywhere from 3 to 5 hours. So if you kind of break down the hourly and everything, and
Kind of nice to be on the front end, not wait for someone to come and say,
Yeah.
you know, I really could use more money, or I really think, it's really nice to be at the front end and say, hey, we acknowledge your good works here, and I'm really happy to see that would, if it would pass that.
all right, well, I will look at that, get some increase portrayed in the agreement and send it over for him to review and make sure that he's comfortable with what we're presenting to him. I do agree. I think he's really helped drive some growth to the program. And I mean, some of the names of the bands that have come in and the crowds that they've brought has been pretty amazing. So I think if we can continue that, that's great. So
So I don't see the Rocking Hollywoods at the end of,
we will talk about that. So good transition. So if we look at the concert series schedule, this is what an example of his work. So he did put this together for us to have that initial review of. It's going to look like this if you need it. It's Arts in the Park Music draft. This is a draft for 2022. So he takes the initiative to put together a first recommendation. We have the opportunity per our contract to review it, provide some feedback, and obviously we got to look at the budget components as well. The only night that's not listed in our contract with Mr. McBride is the last Tuesday, which will be August 30th. I coordinate that with Rockin' Hollywoods just because they do their own sound and production, so that's always just been exempt from our contract with him. He doesn't provide his services for that night. So the Rockin' Hollywoods is confirmed. It's their 50th summer, so they're expecting a lot of PR and excitement. I spoke with them already, and their book, we're on their calendar. Similarly, they've been at $2,200 for the last 2 or 3 years. Similarly, if we can do more, that'd be great, but they're not asking of it. So that would be another, that one's pretty much locked in around that $2,200 for that group. Again, if we could bump them up even $100, I think they'd appreciate that, but that's where we'll get to another version of this where it's a little more final. But tonight is more of kind of this overview of the season and what we think so far from a first glance. Then we can go back and work with him. Just gonna.
I noticed is it called the Centennial Band? That's the one from all the local, they're a big band.
The Centennial Community Band.
Yes.
So I think my first thought was there are a couple returning from last year, a couple bigger names, and some new faces, but I don't really see any that ring a bell to me as like a local group. I think Swinging on a Star was in our concert series last year. Johnny Cash Tribute Band has been a big favorite. And I think one of the new ones is the Pat Donahue would be on August 23rd, which would be $1,200. What was the 19th? So one thought I had is on July 19th, there's a big star at $3,000. So that would be Chris Crozy. I think he was a little less last year, so I don't know if his price went up. But I think things tonight is, $3,000 for one performer. How do you feel about that? Do you want that big of a name to come back? Or, is that more than you're willing to spend on one Tuesday night? So just some thoughts around initial proposal. Would you like to see some more local bands at least considered? Things of that nature.
I would just put I know people like and ask about the Centennial, and that brings a lot of local people in too, because they're all from Centennial, and the band director in Forest Lake is the ringleader there or something. Barry Semwald.
What kind of music do they play?
Pretty much all types.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah. But again, one that I don't know if you've all heard anything about them, but one that's kind of said, oh, that's, really a good one. I'm glad they're back. I don't know. 3,000 is a lot for one, but he was also one that was really good and brought in a large crowd. It's hard to, I'm so glad he has to do this because I wouldn't
It is
say-
a very tricky thing because as you can see here, we have, I think it's about 11 groups that you need to book for. And, you get quite a few inquiries from previous performers, local groups, new groups that want to get in. So we have basically 11 spots to fill. And that's not that many for a very high demand. So it is tricky. I just wanted to call out on here, we're not having a show on Tuesday, July 5th, just because of the 4th of July. So we won't have a show then. And we did incorporate our 2 kids' nights back into the programming. He didn't account for budget for that, but I did put in, I think I put in on the budget a couple $1,000 so that we can hire some kid-friendly entertainment for that.
So is that just on its own, or for a while there, we were putting kids' entertainment for the first like half hour, 45 minutes, and then somebody came in, or does this mean kids' night all night?
Well, that's a good point, because he typically, I think, did put some entertainment, like maybe the Centennial Community Band or something on those kid nights with kid programming first and then an actual performance, maybe a shortened version. So I think we have to fine tune that. That's a good point. I think you're right that we need to add somebody for those days.
Yeah, you don't.
Something shorter.
Right, it's good to have the kids' night, but then the parents want to have something if they're gonna bring their kids up and not have the teddy bear band the whole time. Not that they're not good. But the kids. can
So
go
I had
play on the
added
playground.
in our budget we looked at before, $13,000 for the concert series, so not including the kids' nights, and then I added $2,000 for the kids and family nights programming. So we have like I said, we have a little bit of wiggle room. This isn't set in stone, but it's just a good benchmarks to work towards as we get to a final concert series. So
But the only other thing I'd add is when they've had like one singer or a guy in the gallery, that the spot there requires more volume, more, if it's too soft, people have complained about, gosh, it's too bad she isn't louder, or too bad they don't have more, or something that the gazebo is meant for in that space for more volume. I don't know. It's the only other thing I've ever heard when we've had that, but I don't see that here. I see a couple of 2 peoples. I don't know who they are.
yeah, so we have, looks like 3 groups that are of 2 performers, and then Chris Crozy sings by himself, and then I don't know much about the Pat Donahue yet, but that would be a different group that we haven't had before. So, were there any favorites from last year that you attended that you would love to see again? Or do you think, from a planning and event standpoint, and we don't have to get into the details, do you like providing for the community more of like a new lineup where it's new and different a little bit?
I like new and different with one little setback of somebody there
Couple, maybe a couple coming back that people really just enjoyed and they'd be there every year for that band.
Yeah, some people do enjoy like the Johnny Cash tribute band there. I mean, seems like the park fills up really well, so that's a great thing.
And I think the role for the Parks Commission too is, there's so much focus on getting people downtown and bringing people into the community. So selecting this really drives that, traction to downtown. So I think having groups that are maybe well-known or popular really helps get people into the community from outside of Forest Lake. You get more boaters coming over, you get more people coming in. Some of those groups too help market and promote the events on their individual social media pages, which is really helpful to get people into Forest Lake. So I think, I think maybe we could look into a couple modifications. I think adding some suggestions to the kids' night would be good.
Do we need to have 2 kids nights for a concert series, or should we have 1, or what are everyone's thoughts on that?
Where are they placed? You know, if they're placed maybe far enough apart from each other.
So June 21st was the first kids' night that we have proposed. Again, this is, a draft, but with the thought being they're out of school for a couple weeks and let people kind of transition into the summer mode. And then also August 2nd before they get back to school. So one in June and one in August, with that intent of separating them out a little bit. To your question, I think years ago, we always had 2 kids and family nights. I think it dropped down one year, we just had one of them. I think what I've seen with the new playground equipment downtown, families that are coming to the park a lot, that playground is just busy. It's full of kids. So, I think that the kids are always just drawn to that. But it is nice to still have a family and kid focus on a couple nights. Maybe they don't need to all be like kids entertainment, but maybe we could just come up with, like the Wildlife Science Center, they bring an animal down and have kid-friendly things, but it's not like center stage at the gazebo. We could do 2 nights where the first hour has got some kid activities. And maybe one of them's like the bounce house night, and we can promote it that way.
That's what I see. I don't mind having 2 if
Okay.
we've got something extra.
That makes sense then. Yep.
But what I'm hearing from you is still on the kids' nights, we still want a scheduled performance for the adults.
I would.
Okay.
Then the kids can go play on the playground.
And maybe that's where you put in some new local ones too, or the one Centennial or. Oh,
They do require quite a bit of like setup time and so they'd probably need to be like a
Wild
full.
Center thing, have the animals out in the park area. I don't know.
We did that one year with Greta the Great Horned Owl and it was really simple. It was just like a table and it was something for kids to see and do and we can encourage vendors. Some of the vendors liked to participate in the kid and family nights with their own things at their booth, so.
Could have a kids' night special. Good.
Any specific feedback otherwise on groups on here, or just try to see if we can incorporate some more local groups?
if they're good.
Yeah,
If
I
they're
mean,
good.
well, that's it. We don't want to, we don't
I
have to.
don't know all the groups,
Yeah,
but
have to
I
kinda
wouldn't want to
go
say
and listen.
local just for the sake of
Right.
local and have them not be able to do an in-a-park concert series, right? I mean, there's good musicians out there, but
But they have to be enough. It can't be just a good
Yeah.
guitar player or
Yeah.
a good,
yeah.
We've had maybe a couple of those sometimes where it's just one. So I don't know those 2 people, but if Woody says they're good and they fit into the stage area and will be loud, so we get the votes as well.
I like the idea of Chris Crozy. I think that's,
I do too.
to have a draw, an attraction like that, and somebody who is proven and good, as well as the Fat Donahue. That, to me, sounds like a kind of an upgrade to the program.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I think the timing where that's slotted in right now is good because it kind of separates from then like the Rockin' Hollywoods at the end of the season, which is another big draw. And then I think we strategically have kind of started with an easy listening, kind of a soft opening of the series, just because that first week in June is really busy with the school activities and, school ending and things like that. And I think it takes people a week or 2 to really start thinking about, oh yeah, it's Arts in the Park now, and get going into that. So we kind of start out a little easier with the schedule. We don't put like a big name first kind of thing, so.
Has anyone heard the Memories? I don't. Okay.
I have not.
Have to maybe Google them.
That's what I'm gonna have to do is Google.
That's what I'm thinking.
All right, so I guess from here, otherwise everyone's else, the schedule at a glance looks good. We know what budget we need to stay within, try to incorporate some local if we can. But I would just encourage you to take some time in the next week or 2 to look through these a little bit more. And if there's any that you're like, I don't know that, putting on the lens of the community, right? Of what's gonna make people come out to these events. And if you're just not feeling it, then just let me know and we can kind of do some modifications if needed. Because I think our goal is really to provide a really strong community event. And I think we've been doing that. and who we have performing at the park, I think really draws people in, so.
But if Terry were here, she would probably say she'll be on social media asking if there's anybody that has anything that really stood out for them. I mean, not that that's how we're gonna plan it, but she seems to get a lot of response from people, so maybe we missed somebody that.
Well, and the city could, I mean, if we really wanted to or had that interest, I mean, I can put something on our city's Facebook page if we want to solicit community input, or is this just,
I don't know, maybe it's not even needed, I'm just knowing.
Betty
that
say
if-
no?
If she was here, she'd be getting her friends on social media, because she gets a lot of them.
I think we've done a good job providing a good series, so we'll keep
Yeah.
going with that.
I think so, you don't wanna open the can of worms
No.
either.
All right, so we'll get to a final, if I get any modifications, I'll send it over so you guys can look at it in the meantime, if there's any other groups to consider. And we'll, kind of going back to working with Woody, he's great to work with, but, you know, all of these performers have set schedules, and moving things around can get tricky if you get too far in the game. So we'd like to get this locked in the next few weeks, so.
Okay.
Under the kayak
All right.
kiosks.
So, I printed the RentFun self-service kayak rental proposal. We'll go through this together tonight, but just a quick recap of why this is on the agenda for workshop. I know we always are talking about recreation activities for the lake and how we can do that, and we really don't have something like this in the community, but it'd be nice to have. I know I also saw in the downtown plans that there's a little, improve the shoreline for kayak access and things like that. So I think having more of a recreational opportunity for residents who don't have lake access or people visiting Lakeside Memorial Park, for example, this would be something fun for them to do if they wanted. So I got an email from this company and I reached out to schedule time to speak with them and learn more about what they offer. So I did have a virtual meeting with Adam Greenstein last week. And I thought it was a really interesting model and concept. So with that, we'll just kind of run through this quickly. It's, again, workshop format. Just really want to see if you're interested, and if you are, where do we go from here, and what some of those next steps could potentially look like. This isn't something that'll happen tomorrow, but it's a concept that I think might work well for our community. So this is, again, to provide outdoor recreation options for your community. He highlights staffing shortages and tight budgets. So this is a self-service equipment rental for kayaks and all the equipment you would need to go kayaking. This idea was driven through the pandemic. Some of their customers for their bike share programs reached out to them and asked if they could use that same technology for the bike share program for these kayak kiosks. So they were like, I think we can do that. And so they kind of sought it all out and got a manufacturer to build these cages. And again, it's the same technology. You use your smartphone to get into the app. So again, I don't need to go through all this history on RentFun, but basically they help communities, making it easier to start, run, and maintain recreational rental programs. They believe that the future, we'll have more people participating in outdoor recreation programs, but fewer staff members to support them. So we're using technology to make recreational rental programs easier for everybody. So it talks a little bit about their company and how they started with this bikes and scooters, and now they have kayaks and stand-up paddle boards.
So Jamie, did he say if they have any of the kayaks and paddle boards already locally in Minnesota? I had to look, I couldn't find.
I don't know if he had any Kayak Chair. I don't know if he has any in Minnesota.
Okay.
So we likely not. This is a newer, the Kayak Rentals is newer in the last 1 to 2 years
Yeah,
with
2016, actually, it said.
for the kayaks.
I thought, or maybe it was just their parent company.
I think that's their parent company. Because they do the bike shares and those little scooters you can rent.
Right.
From our initial conversation, it sounded as if it was pandemic driven, that someone came to them with this idea, can you do this for kayaks? So they came up with a solution. So how this works, and again, similar to bike share, you rent it with your smartphone, so you go to their website. It has everything that pops up on the screen, so like the liability waivers, it tells you how to unlock and rent the equipment, and it's just pretty straightforward. There is a YouTube video I can share with anybody if you want to really see the details, but basically then once it's unlocked, you have everything you need to go out kayaking, and so you've got life jackets and paddles. So and then you get this smart locker. There's different sizes. This is the one you see here shows 8 kayaks, which is probably a good amount for if we would consider this for downtown at Lakeside Memorial. I'm not going to go over all the details, but we just need somewhere to put this unit so people can have access for renting.
Got an idea of where you would put something like this?
Not fully yet. We talked, he and I were looking at the layout of the park and have some ideas, but we would need to, if there's interest, kind of take some additional steps to see exactly where. So don't have a specific spot. I think a couple ideas in mind, but want to see if this is even something that we'd be interested in exploring further.
And
Not gonna, oh,
it'd
go ahead.
have to be through the development, downtown development too, because they've got sorts of new ideas.
Yeah, there was on there something about the kayak kiosks was on there. So improving the shoreline, but yes, that is make sure it's in conjunction with those plans and part of this too, if this is something that we're interested in as we get into those downtown planning discussions and are more involved in that, I think we could bring this forward as, yes, we think this is a good idea and we can do something of this nature. So I'm trying to be a little proactive of getting that idea out there if it's going to be in alignment with the vision for downtown. But I'm not going to go into the software. It's pretty straightforward. The thing with this company is they do all the program management, so they market it, they provide customer support, they have reporting available, they'll deliver, install, and maintain, and then they carry all the liability.
So the one-time fee is $15,000?
Yep, so going into the pricing, so how this works, here, I'll finish explaining, and then we'll go to questions. So how this works, there's a 2-year pilot program, so there's different options, but the one that would be good for our community if we'd want to try this is there's a one-time activation fee of $15,000. So that would be the 8 units as listed here. But then there's the third box is the revenue share. So if once this is installed and we've paid the $15,000, we will get 80% of every rental up until the $15,000. So we'll essentially get our $15,000 back.
Okay.
So if you guys all go rent kayaks, you would get 80% of that rental, and we would accumulate all that revenue back until $15,000. After that, once we've gotten our $15,000 back, we then still get 20% of the revenue on any additional rental. So from there on out. So once we have them in, we should be set to go. I think, so it does have a license is 2 years. I don't know yet because we kept it pretty high level. There would probably, after the 2 years, be a license renewal fee of some kind, but hopefully we would recoup revenue and, be able to pay that out of this program. Obviously some more questions to ask and things if we're interested. But it seems like from one of his other pilot programs, he has some data, but he said in about a year, we'd hopefully recoup the $15,000 based on data they've collected.
What does he, say kind of an average or what they would recommend that you charge per hour or 2 hours?
So he went through one community with me, and I believe it said on there, they had it set at like $5 per hour. So it was pretty minimal. And I talked about, what if we have someone interested in the community to sponsor this, or how would that work? And there's opportunities. We can certainly work with them on what that might look like. And they're very into getting people to use them. So we can put out promo codes. So your first hour is free, or, things like that to just incentivize people to use the program. But I think we can work with them on setting that fee, but I think they did around $5 an hour. They also do have monthly or yearly memberships where you can just pay a flat rate, and then you can use it as much as you want throughout the year and in an hour increment. So if it's Monday, you can go out for an hour with no charge, or et cetera. So it's something like that. So we did keep this, very concept, high level. There would be a lot of next steps and fine tuning some things, but
overall, I mean, I like the program. I think, you know, like you said, bike share, some of those things are pretty proven. And I like the idea of allowing people that maybe don't have access to these things to get out on the lake, short of more slips, more, you know what I mean? So that I like. Or maybe I want a kayak, maybe I want a paddleboard, but I don't know. So I get to go out and try it out and explore the lake. But like you said, the devil's in the details. So now it's really understanding what's that cost model, you know, how many 1 hours at $5
Would it take
to do
to,
over a
Yeah.
pretty short season. So that's kind of where I was at when I came in tonight.
Yeah, even at, I mean, you got 8 of them, that would be $40 an hour if they're all used, so on a short season, that would probably take a few years to recoup that back.
And you talked about maybe none in Minnesota, but you seem to know that he had a pay scale somewhere, so where is he judging that from, or what is he judging that on?
I don't remember which community it was. I can get sounds like some follow-up you'd be interested in. You like the concept, you think it might be a good fit for downtown, but let's look at a few more pieces of information, data from other communities and see where those communities are.
I went on their website and I really couldn't see anything on this one. So then I went to the parent company, and that has a lot of the bike rentals and the water bike, you know, the paddle, almost the big paddle thing. But they seem to be more on the coast. A lot of Florida. There was a little California, and then it said coming to Indiana. So that made me again
Right.
just say, is there anywhere local that we would have a sense, or a competitor?
Right.
I couldn't figure out if there's a competitor out there either. So I like the idea.
Right. Yeah, no, those are good questions. And two, you know, with that $15,000 one-time cost, we didn't get into the nitty-gritty of it, but is there a sponsorship opportunity if somebody wanted to, like, you know, put some signage up on the you know, the cage that it's in or whatever it might be, to help fund that initial cost if they want this to be a program in the community. Well, I don't know who that would be or what yet, but you know, once that initial $15,000 is funded, it's minimal space in the park and really no work on behalf of the city to maintain or be responsible for, and then whatever revenue comes in, whether it's over a year or 10 years, whatever that might be. But I think the intent would be to provide a recreational activity.
I would do a couple paddle boards. I would do maybe, you know, 6 kayaks and a couple paddle boards.
Isn't there, don't they have on the paddleboard thing, doesn't somebody do that once a year?
They do paddleboard yoga.
Oh, it's just paddleboard yoga.
I think.
And community
Okay.
education runs a couple paddleboard classes off of the lake, but those are just, again, like set schedules, dates and times, things like that. I think there is a local company that does have paddle boards for rent. I don't know, I think they're near the lake, but again, you know, that probably takes manpower to get everyone down there and rent them, kind of thing too, so.
And then on the insurance and liability that they say they cover, so when somebody rents it, if something happens to them in the lake, so are they covering that insurance, or is it?
That's
that's how that works, huh?
when you're on the app, you go through the series of questions, there's the waiver and liability on their app.
Okay.
That if you're signing up, you're waiving your rights, and they have the 2 million in liability insurance. So I will get some more information, but just so you know too, there's definitely, you know, there's contracts that you have to sign. I did look extensively into a bike share program for the community a few years ago with the Health Up organization. And there would be, you know, a contract that would need to eventually even happen. So it's very broad, high level conversation on, are you interested in something like this? I think it could be a good model. We've got lighthouse lofts and a lot of places downtown with people renting or coming into the community. So it might be an easy way for us, without a lot of staff resources or financial resources, to have that just there and something for people to go and do on their own.
It's separate from your boat club. I was thinking first that maybe your boat club would want to incorporate something like that, but it's really quite separate from what they do.
Yeah.
I would think so too.
I think it's a good idea. I'd like to know, putting them back, once you've rented it, putting them back, making sure everything is there, and then that they're clean and ready
Oh,
for the
yeah.
next person. And it says in here that they hire somebody local, maybe they have the bike shop comes over and, I don't know, but I'd like to understand that better.
Sure, I'll find that out, because I think you're right. When I was exploring the bike share program, they did come, the company who runs the program does find a local, like, bike shop and has them go over and do like maintenance inspections and things like that. So that's, I'm assuming, how they operate, but I'll find out more for you on that too.
Right, because if one person rents it and they put the kayak back and not the paddle, and the next person comes to rent it and there's no paddle, that, yeah.
I'll
that
see if,
would
I'll
be-
ask if what challenges if they, what the
Yeah.
pros and cons or what some challenges have been. But I'll find out a little bit more, but just wanted to bring the concept forward. Again, just
Yeah,
a newer kind of idea that I think might align with some of the goals for downtown.
all right, we're on to staff updates.
All right.
Athletic Facilities Advisory Committee.
Let me grab my notes here. Okay, so just quick updates. I'll go through these. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them after. Athletic Facilities Advisory Committee, this is a new committee that replaced or we transitioned the Fenway Athletic Advisory Committee into an Athletic Facilities Advisory Committee. So more broad to include all athletic facilities in the community. And then so we had our kickoff meeting last Tuesday, February 8th. And so it was myself, Kyle Young with the Forest Lake School District, Al Hauge with FLA, and Paul Kozak with FLA. And it was a great meeting, a lot of excitement on trying to work with the school to help schedule our fields with their software that they have in place already. So the school district already schedules fields out, so we're trying to form a partnership where it can just be streamlined for FLA and other user groups. So very good meeting. We're gonna meet again in March just to prepare for the upcoming season. We've got a few more things to talk about and get ready. Otherwise, this is gonna be a quarterly meeting. So our next quarterly meeting will be in April. So some really good movement there. Everyone agreed it was steps in the right direction and really happy, so.
That scheduling is such a good thing that they finally got together on, because it was just nonsense to have other people when one person has the software and does all the scheduling. That was just, when I heard that, that's a really good thing.
It's been, yeah, I'm glad to hear that, because I think it's gonna really make things efficient, and I think it's gonna really be beneficial to the community and all the user groups and all the partners involved. So we're taking those steps to figure that out and work together, and really positive there. So any other questions or comments?
Was there any discussion, or has there been communication to FLA about the reduction of one field, softball field at Bells Park?
We did talk about that briefly. They're in support or would be interested in having another game field there, as we've kind of gone back and forth of the intended use of that field as we're in the master planning phase. They do, have interest in that being a game field, and would be excited about that.
When you say game field, I'm sorry, so for T-ball and
No,
the
they're
little
thinking
kids, or
big
like
kids.
Like-
you out at Fenway?
Like 10 and under, I think.
Oh,
So
okay.
Can't have big kids
No,
drive.
you
I think it would be
I was gonna
intended like the
say.
8 to 10-year-olds.
Yeah, okay.
So
what
a
we've
game
done in the
field.
past.
But, no, that would be a lot more,
Vastly improved field?
where I was gonna say, that's where the addition of the monies for the field would be, and I think they do just fine with the field that
I
they got
agree.
for that age group. And so that came up at one of our last meetings, that was changed on the master plan that we hadn't seen before. I think pretty much that night, everybody was in agreement that, nope, that's not the direction we're going with that field. And I don't blame FLA for wanting more, because
Well-
I want to increase our revenue in places.
Well, I think, I agree, we should have, that should stay as a pickup ball area. And we have the other land available over at Fenway. Because we did a trade about 2 or 3 years ago we did a land swap between Pratt and us, so we have the land, so we can put another ball field in there, so that has to stay just a.
And
a
I did
kids'
mention-
Pickup ball game,
Yeah, I
that's
think
what
we were all
needs, it stays.
I did mention in the meeting that the intended use of that field, you know, we're still getting to that final because there's just some differing opinions on that. We did talk about the expansion at Fenway and how the importance of this group and this committee, once we get this season started for being back out on the athletic fields, really then start looking at a capital plan for athletic facilities, which will tie into our parks capital plan, but really looking at what's the priority of the needs. Is it fields? Is it lights? Is it more scoreboards? You know, what does that look like? So this committee can help citywide, not just out at Fenway, but all across the board. So I had provided them with a list, you know, it had Fenway Park, it had Coolin Camp Park, it had even Castlewood Golf Course in there, as, you know, it's all our athletic facilities. It's not just focused on Fenway anymore, it's citywide. Because FLA have baseball plays out at Coolin Camp, and there's a lot of capital, you know, improvements out there. We have Schilling Park, I don't know if we need to do anything there. We have the expansion, we have Fenway Field, so just looking at it more broad, like citywide, all our athletic facilities. So we're gonna start probably April, looking at that capital list and identify what the priorities are, because I think when we start doing that just for athletic facilities, in addition to all our parks requests and priorities that we have there, it's gonna be, there's gonna be quite a bit on that list.
And it's good for us to remember how much the baseball people have put into
Coolin Camp, yeah, absolutely.
And I'm just worried again, you know, when we talk all these things about going to plan a thing, did it get the message through to them? Because I really strongly heard that this commission, if we mean anything at all, want it to be known that, nope, this is a neighborhood park for neighborhood pickup games. And so when you're saying, you know, we're all looking at all the fields and everything, it makes me nervous again to think, are they still going to include that possibility in their plans?
Are you referring to the Belts project?
Right. Or are they saying, oh, I guess that doesn't sound like.
No, we didn't really go to that level of detail. It was
Okay.
just, I think they had the plan printed out, and I just explained that, you know, we're still working on that. They said from their perspective, like, seeing a game field there would be nice, and I explained, well, we still have to figure out what that intended use will be, but.
See, that's where I'm getting confused. 'Cause to me, we didn't have to figure that out. We made it pretty clear what we thought that intended field use would be. So when
Right.
we say, you know, anytime it goes back into the planning, it sounds like we're gonna talk them into it, or we'll figure out a plan.
Yeah, I just have to circle back with city staff, because I know I got them, I think I know what the Parks Commission's recommendation for that field would be. It would be the community use, so understood. I just have to circle back with staff and get that finalized. So any other questions on the advisory committee? All was good there. We got a plan in place and we're moving forward. Just briefly on the Fenway Fields rehabilitation project. So at our last meeting in January, information was supplied by our Public Works Director, Dave Adams, that I shared with you regarding field improvements at Fenway for the baseball field and the 4 softball fields at Fenway Park. We did table that, any decisions on that in our January meeting. We did talk about this briefly at the Athletic Facilities Advisory Committee meeting. I'm working with them to, you know, kind of refine what their current needs are as priority for safety, and they really need ag lime. So just wanted to let you guys know that we will be bringing that back, and it is on our radar. We're figuring out of everything that was proposed, what do we need to do first and what's important to do. So just wanted to let you know we're working on that. Lastly, for myself, for updates, the downtown revitalization plan. I think there was a couple emails just about what's our role in that from Chair Steenblock. So I've shared those communications with you. It sounds like we will have an opportunity at the commission level when we're ready. I think it's a little early yet in the process. So everyone's invited to attend the City Council and the EDA joint workshop next Tuesday, February 22nd. It's going to be at 6:30 here upstairs in the community room. They're going to look at the downtown directives and kind of keep going that process. That's all the information I have at this time. So if you have any further questions, you can email me or let me know after the meeting.
Are they gonna record that? I'm gonna be out of town and I'm just sick about it. I would really like to be there. Is it a community event again where we're gonna invite all the community people in? Or-
It is open to the community, so anyone's welcome, and then I can verify that it'll be recorded, but I'm guessing if they all have been, there's probably a live, like a Zoom format
Okay.
as well. Any questions on that? And
I'd like to, well, I hope that it is recorded because I'm not.
okay, and I'm hoping to be there as well. And I know there's been the online options to provide feedback, so I don't know if people have had the opportunity or have taken advantage of that, but I think there is a big parks component to this downtown, and really important to be involved in that at some when they're ready for that to happen. But just start thinking about your comments, questions. I have a copy of the plan here if you haven't seen it. If anyone wants it, that you can take it with you. So far, what we've seen is, you know, some recreational requests for downtown. You know, not any major changes, but I think we should really, as a group, you know.
Well, it seems like moving the whole concession building is a big
Right, I
deal.
guess that would be the big change, but
and
not
I
like
saw that
expanding,
one, I was like,
not expanding parkland or anything other than,
Well, using that empty lot too as part of, I don't know what they called that, but a little kind of park between the park and the trail or something, a place for people to sit and do things. That was a big thing. I mean, what
right
was-
off of, right by where the bank used to be.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So we'll get more, I just start becoming more and more familiar with it. Be ready for any thoughts, questions, ideas. Interject any feedback where you're able to. But just so when it does come across our desk here, we're ready to go with some ideas on it.
I just hope they don't move the concession stand or I mean, that's a perfectly good building there. It's just, it's a no-brainer. We have bathrooms and we have places to set things for when we have park events. It's,
Yeah, the veterans
We-
thing right in front of it.
and the veterans thing will be there, and that should stay there, in my
We should have been
opinion.
around years ago when they built it. Told them to move it over a little bit. Now it's, you know, there.
I like it there.
Well, these are all good things to have ready on the list and share these whenever you're able to, so. And that's all I have for updates tonight, so if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
No, the only other thing, I drove past Castlewood and the new clubhouse looks awesome. Looks great. I really like it.
And it'd be nice to keep really good communication again between that, so we don't hear what we heard before. And I even hear it from people who work in there, you know, I don't know a thing about it. And I thought, well, why isn't someone talking back and forth about where it is, you know, how far along they are? I mean, people that sit and eat there, they have a lot of questions. And if the people that own the place or run the place don't have any answers, it looks kind of silly.
I'll work on getting an update. I know that right now the winter was just construction. I don't know much about the interior build out, timeline and process for that. So I'll see if I can find something out if there's a timeline developed and what the plan is.
Shirts.
T-shirts.
So I can't share the thing on my computer, but Karen, I'll let you go over with that and I'll email
Well,
everybody.
you know, I've been kind of a pain in the neck about this whole thing because I have to wear that one that I had so many years ago and it doesn't fit me and it looks ugly and it's an ugly color. So, but I do think being down at the Arts in the Park, identified as someone who might have an answer or to something or could find the answer to a question, has really been fun for me to be down there and adds a little bit to just showing up. It's like you feel you got a purpose or something, I don't know. So we've teased a lot about Jason wearing pink, and Terry gave me permission to go ahead and buy him one, but I thought it'd probably be better if I just came up, I went to Rapid Press, the new person there that owns it is so sweet and nice, and she came up with just an idea. I'm gonna pass that around. No one has to buy them. I mean, I'm not asking for the park commission to purchase them. I'm just letting it out there to know that I'm gonna pay for the setup fee. And that if anyone wants one, we can certainly add them. I asked her today, Betty had a question why the setup fee goes up if we add more, because that can kind of.
Yeah.
But the reason for that is we'd all have different names, and so the setup
Oh,
for the
this
names.
actually changes a little.
Right.
Oh, so we're all not Karen. I
Yeah.
wanted to just be
If you don't
Karen.
want anyone to be Karen.
Now there's an idea. You can all just be
I'm gonna change my
Karens.
name on it.
7 Karens around the park.
But-
That's a great idea, Betty.
Terrible people.
Then you can blame everything on Karen.
Yeah,
Karen
exactly.
told me.
As if the meme doesn't already. But just an idea. Betty suggested she might want one. I don't know if anyone else, but I just lay it out there so that by the next season, so again, soon, I don't know how soon, but soon, to let people know who would want one. This blue is really muted. They had a lot of blues, and I said, the blue I would like to see is the one that matches the blues up at the park. Exactly sure how close they can get to that, but that would be kind of fun. So, just a suggestion, and if anyone wants one, fine, and if they don't, that's fine with me too. I just plan on having one.
Would you like them to contact you, or do you want me to collect the orders if anyone wants them? How would you like to handle that? Or set a deadline like next meeting? Maybe sooner?
I don't know, next meeting's fine, let people, and maybe, did you get a picture like this on it? Not that, and again, if someone says, hey, that's kind of not good, I could come up with something better. This is what she tried in a little copy from the last one we had to now, but I'm open to suggestions too. If somebody said, well, I hate it, I'd like to get one, but I hate it, so.
Does the city have a font style that it uses on?
Oh, they passed it.
Yep.
We just have our city logo. We have some branding guidelines. We have some, you know, a palette of colors for our logo and brand. So we can incorporate something like that if you want.
Where do you find that out?
Just Dan Undum, our assistant city administrator, I think runs our branding. But I do have the guidelines and specifications. So it's just the different specific colors of our logo and what that font type is and things of that nature. So.
No, I hadn't even thought about anything like that. Oh.
I want one. Do you put, where's the name? Is it on your back?
No, it's on the front under the gazebo.
So,
Again, when they come up.
oh,
and have-
that's the back is the writing?
Right,
Okay.
right. So when they come up and they have a question, they can say, oh, Betty, I was just wondering. So it just goes under the,
Yeah, under the I like the gazebo on there, that was
I
kind
do
of a
too.
cool touch.
and I asked her about sizes because she said, well, they run pretty much true to size, so whatever that means.
All right, well, thank you.
He wants pink, the guy at the end, he can have pink. If he wants to stand out.
Except he probably is gonna keep Karen on
As
there.
long as Karen's on there.
Oh, man. I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
I have one quick up, 2 seconds. So, the Your Boat Club, I have started just doing some initial kind of research into that. They have, I think 19 different sites in Minnesota, but I contacted White Bear Lake and Champlain as the closest ones, because otherwise you've got the river, which is gonna be different, and Minnetonka, which is gonna be inflated, and so I'm waiting to hear back from Champlain. They're actually in the middle of their contract right now.
Okay.
So he said as soon as we finalized it, it'll be public information and he'll share it with me. White Bear, actually, the city is not involved at all. They have they use the docks of, I think it's Admiral D's, a restaurant down there. And so the city isn't involved at all, so he didn't really have a whole lot he could share. So anyway, still just checking on that kind of stuff. And before I'll just bring what I find after, so probably won't be till maybe the April meeting till I have
Okay.
a little more information.
You're doing that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Before we adjourn, just a quick note. I know we don't like to shuffle meeting dates around. Tuesday, March 15th, I will not be available for the meeting, so unless there's any other city staff that can cover, we would probably have to just schedule it for a time that I'm available. I know Doug, I believe, is absent in March, so I just right now put in the next meeting as Tuesday, March 22nd, so I'll follow up with you, but just a note that I will not be available on the 15th when we're scheduled, so we either have to go before or after, or pick a different day just for March. I don't anticipate any other schedule conflicts.
So that week is gone, you can't go like the day before, the day after.
Correct. So just wanted to let you know, and I'll follow up with you, and apologize for that inconvenience unless there's somebody else that can fill in. Right now, it's just me in the department, so we might have to pick a different date. So just wanted to let you know, I penciled in the 22nd. I think it'll be kind of a quick turnaround to go before that, just with packet deadlines and such, so this is likely what it'll be. And I think that still allows us to approve anything to get to the council meeting the following Monday, the 28th, if we need anything approved.
So you're saying the 22nd would be a possibility? then?
Correct.
Oh, that's the one you're thinking?
Yeah,
Okay,
it would just be 1 week later,
okay.
and then we'd be back to our regular scheduled third Tuesdays. So just a note. And thank you for your time tonight.
Do we have any other staff updates? We have a motion to adjourn, or don't we need to do that with
We don't need to do
Workshop.
that.
Hey, perfect.
We're
Just
out.
adjourn.
Good job. Good.
Thank
Nicely
you.
done.
Take off. is what you do.
That's right.
Somehow I can't modify my date for the meeting, so I'm just going to.
And where are you going? You said you're-
Next week? Are you ready for this? Yeah. Las Vegas.
Yeah, having it,